Hey everyone, small introduction to myself. I'm Felix from Berlin. I work for Up42. We are a geospatial company that provide a market space for commercial satellite imagery mostly. I started becoming active in Debian around over 10 years ago when I was co-organizing the Debian conference that happened last year exactly in that place, but I was doing it in Nicaragua. And I came to Geospatial through OpenStreetMap, which I love. Today we are going to have like two big parts of the two packages of the presentation. We will first look at different software packaging approaches, operating system packaging, application level package managers, universal package managers. Why? Because I think it's worth to like look what is the benefits of each of them, why we are using them, why we might don't want to use all of them at once, as it was mentioned in the previous talk. And then in the second part, I would like to go into looking into the Debian GIS team and give a really small introduction on how easy it is to build a Debian package. The three software packaging approaches I already mentioned. Operating system package managers, you might know DEP or RPM or others. They usually are in charge of provide you well-working system-wide and software installations. Developers, as I kind of assume that a lot of people are here, developers, we use oftentimes application level package managers that are usually around one special ecosystem like pip for Python or npm for Node.js. And the third one are universal package managers. Those are a little bit newer, like Flatpak, Snap, and they provide self-containing software packages to run on multiple Linux distros. In addition, now after the talk before, I would probably put a fourth package manager in it because it is particular Linux one. So if you haven't checked it out, please watch the other presentation. So the advantages and disadvantages. The operating system package managers provide you like running software in your operating system. You don't have to deal with it, you install it. Usually dependency management is handled for you. You have a centralized repository that usually is already configured. You can just say, hey, give me that software, it comes to you. If you have problems, you have a place where to go. You have a centralized bug tracker usually, and you can say, hey, there's something not working. It is integrated not only with dependencies, so if you install something that has dependencies, it makes sure that it runs with the dependencies it is installed. It also integrates with other system tools, so you might have a system manager, service manager that runs your software in a certain way. And I think one of the most important points that often are not really mentioned is there is a level of trust that is built if you are using an operating system. Why? Because you have people who are usually independent, packaging the software, looking at it, that the license is right? You might want to be sure that it's really free software that's running on your system. No malicious code is introduced. There's somebody looking over it again. So there's an additional pair of eyes. There are additional checks that are being run on it. And the whole thing is built to provide you like a stable system. In contrast, the application level package manager is usually looking at one specific ecosystem and tries to give you the most flexible, the most flexibility you can get. So you can control the versions of the stuff you're installing. You might want to have virtual environments, so you can have different projects with different versions that are using different versions in parallel or depending on the project. You want to be fast in iteration, you want to have the latest version immediately. You might even, if you have this, if you own this package, you have the possibility to release it yourself and not wait for this additional pair of eyes in the operating system that comes in it. This leads to the already mentioned dependency hell oftentimes, so you have to deal with all the different versions, you have to make sure it works, and it provides you relatively low level of trust, because usually in those everybody can publish a package, and we have seen examples in Node, NPM, but also in pip that packages just disappeared in a better option, or even malicious code was introduced in some color picking whatnot module, and you just install it as a dependency and you have no control about what you're installing actually. So you are responsible entirely on your own for what you're pulling from it. Universal package managers do something in between, so they are cross-distribution compatible, so you can usually use them and install them no matter whether it's Debian, Fedora, or some other platform. They are bundled, so they contain all the dependencies within the package. They usually run on a sandboxed environment, oftentimes containers. And that allows you to have like a certain level of security, but on the other side it's probably not one you want to discuss in depth in order to argue that this is really secure. They have different approaches to trust. So some of them are more like, I'm the vendor, I make the rules, I decide which is my quality criteria. By the way, Play Store or Apple Store are similar to universal package managers, and they have like their policies. Then I think Flatpak allows just everybody to upload it. So you have different approaches to it, and that's actually nice because we can experiment with them. So far I haven't seen any that has like the level of trust and control that operating systems have. My very personal conclusion on those three software packaging approaches is I want to have a system that just runs, and this is where I use the operating system package manager. So this is the normal software I just use, my QGIS. I don't care, I'm not a developer of QGIS, so I don't care whether it's the newest version. I want to have a working version, and I'm super thankful for people who are doing all the dependency hell figuring out and provide me with something that just works well. If I develop on something, I do want to use an application level package manager because it gives me the flexibility I need, and I'm fine with dealing with all the issues on dependencies and so on. That's again my personal view. If I want to use experimental software, then I would use a universal package manager, because maybe it's still not into the operating system, because they're issued with license or other issues. There are many reasons why certain software is not available in a well-reviewed operating system. Quick recap, if you talk about Linux distributions, I would say software packaging is actually an essential part of what a Linux distribution is. So what is Linux basically? There's so much code floating around with the kernel, with all the different programs, and the Linux distribution is like bundling them together, giving you a good experience, giving you kind of a product that you can use. And packaging is actually one of the most important parts to bundle all these things together and make that work together. In order to combine it and give you a base and management for software that you can have a good experience. Of course, this also includes the package manager itself, so how it's being done, but still the main work of a Linux distribution is software packaging. Why I would argue for Debian? First, it has an awesome community. It is there for over 20 years. It is self-governed. It is large. It has been very successful. I also think it has been shown in a very nice way how you can interact with like company success and like individuals who take responsibility for software instead of like being pushed into company interests. The base for the Debian community is the social contract, which gives the overall social rules to Debian, the principles of free software for it, and is the agreement, the common human agreement among people who are developing for Debian. Debian has many derivatives, and one of them very famous is Ubuntu, of course, but also OSGeoLive out of this community is based on Debian, and many, many more. So the big advantage is if you package for Debian, it's automatically going to be in Ubuntu. If it's automatically going to be in OSGeoLive, it's automatically going to be in all those derivatives, and you don't have to do it once for the others as well. You will see later on, actually, usually it ends up before in Ubuntu, earlier in Ubuntu, then it ends up in Debian stable, but I think that's good. Debian-based systems are oftentimes the operating system we use on servers, that makes the software available on those systems. It has, since many time, already multi-arc support pretty well and broadly implemented. So if you package something for Debian, then you will not be able to just run it on your computer, but maybe also on some like edgy devices that are not, that are a little bit different and have other use cases. Debian is famous for being pedantic, and I would turn it around and say that's actually value, because you are forced to learn and to do the things right and not just fast and get it out. If you are entering the community, the Debian community, which is very open, you will be criticized on topic in order to make things better, and that's, I think, an important skill that I also have to struggle sometimes with. That you think you did something and then somebody complains, but it's not about the personal part. It's really about like doing things to the end very, very well, and that's also at the end what the users receive for trust, because people are really, really checking on each other in order to make it a good system. You can install anarchism on Debian. It is actually a package, and it's an example here for how you would use the packaging. So you have apt for Debian install, and then the name of the package, anarchism. Anarchism, by the way, is a book. It's the Anarchist Cookbook, which is then installed in the manual pages, so in the documentation of the software, and then you can do man anarchism, and you will read about the documentation about anarchism. Still, anarchism doesn't mean chaos. Especially responsible anarchism means to have agreements in a society and in a group. And in Debian we have what we call the policy, and you have to obey the policy. And the policy is describing exactly how a package should look like, and how it's being done, and everything is basically in the policy. So if you go for the policy, you will learn everything about packaging for Debian. In Debian, there's a dedicated team for geospatial software, which is the GIS team, which is looking into especially packaging and maintaining the GIS software in Debian, providing the seamless experience that the Debian operating system brings to people for geospatial software in particular, and also give this trust around that. The team is also interacting quite a lot with upstream developers to make sure that what they are building actually also makes sense in an operating system context, which is, I think, also an additional value of maturing your software in a way, because you will see this use case is real and usually makes software better. So there is interaction, and we are documenting and establishing the best practices for packaging geospatial software, so that it's easier to do, but also give you like the same round experience around geospatial software on all these distributions. Packaging happens in Salsa, which is a GitLab instance. We have then a second policy, which is borrowed out by the main policy, which is for the GIS stuff, that I would more see like a go-to manual on how to do it. So it's usually easier to read because it's targeted to the best practices we are using. You should probably join the mailing list if you're interested. You will find it at the wiki page for the GIS team. So you are in communication and you find out, you get the feedback you want. Let's look at the basic Debian package. If you are packaging files, they all live into one special directory, which is Debian. And in there you have a few like standard files that we're gonna look at. They are really easy, you don't have to memorize them, but I want to like give you an idea about what is in there and that you don't need so much more than that. The control file is the metadata that you are providing that is used by the package manager. It is the name, maintainers, it orders it somehow, it names the dependencies and gives a description text more or less. So this is what you see usually if you're using a package manager. Second one is a change log, very easy, you just log what you're doing while you're packaging. And the name of people who are doing. Now, this is really, really important for Debian, the copyright text. Debian is very pedantic on copyright issues, and this is going to be checked several times. So, and there are long discussions, because usually what you will find in all upstream projects is that they are not necessarily declaring the copyright in a very precise way. And Debian really wants to make sure that what is running there is free software and not just something like got into it without being right on that. So you will find probably quite a lot of back and forth when creating this copyright text. The rules file is the main entry point for the computation, for building the package. And there you basically say, okay, make install and make install. So you can use shell code for that, or you can use some helper stuff that is documented that makes it easier for you. An example Debian package, I just gave you the whole list of files here. You don't have to be overwhelmed by it. I just want to show you that you will have then files that are named as the different packages. Here you have two. You have renderd and libapache2 modtile. And then they have some different files where you say, like, I copy this to there, I make a link here, if I deinstall, take this away, and all this logic that people want to have if they install their packages to make the experience good. You will find those things definitely in the documentation, and you will get help. If you want to get your package into Debian, there are 3 roles. Contributor is everybody who just wants to contribute. Maintainer are people who are in charge of 1 or 2 packages, and developers are people who are accepted into the Debian community and have a particular role of voting and being engaged in the projects. If you want to upload the package yourself, you need a developer that sponsors you, so that this person will be criticizing you and then uploading it at a certain point. You file an intent to package, you find the sponsor that I said. For this, also the Debian GIS team is great, because this is a team where exactly this platform is giving that you can find easy the sponsor. Then you get it ready. Then you upload it, and then a lot of tests are being run on it. That takes a couple of days. And then you get, if it's a new package, hopefully approval from the FTP team that are looking into especially licenses and what binary files are shipped, so that the things are correct that are there. they have a release cycle in Debian, as you have an unstable, you have a testing, and you have a stable release. Everything that you uploaded ends up in unstable. If it works without problems for, I think, 4 days, it trickles down into testing, which is already pretty stable. I use it on my computer day to day. And every 2 years around that, a stable version is being created, and that's what we call the stable version, which I would more recommend for servers, by the way. Ubuntu is interesting because it says we do releases every half a year, and what they're using is Debian SID, so unstable, copy it over, fix all the things in a month or so, and then ship the version to it. And that's the reason why you get your software into Ubuntu usually after half a year once you uploaded it, while in Debian stable, at least, it might take up to 2 years. So, my conclusion, package managers coexist for different use cases, and it's good that they coexist. As usual in IT, pick the right tool for the right case. If you are considering packaging for an operating system, it's especially good to mature your software and get it to a lot of people, because people will just be able to install it and have not to deal with where it is available, how to do it, how to compile it, what are all the things, what are the dependencies, and so on. They just get it. They can trust in what they are getting. So yeah. Consider packaging as well. It's easy, it's a nice community, and you make sure that your software is going to be available to a lot more people. Thank you.